So this first video is going to deal with the principles of glycolysis. Glycolysis, the splitting of glucose. So we start off with our glucose molecule. I'm just going to draw it in as our 6-carbon molecule. Now this 6-carbon glucose undergoes a few reactions, but two main ones initially. The first reaction, we get a very minor change, but an important one. We get the addition of 2 phosphate groups, one at either end. Now, anytime in biology we're dealing with 2 phosphate groups being added, we need to think about where those phosphates have come from, and in both cases, those 2 phosphate molecules came from ATP. Obviously, we need 2 of those ATP molecules to provide both phosphates, and we need to therefore get 2 ADP being produced. So that's our first step in glycolysis. Now this step then continues, and because this is an unstable molecule, it will break down very quickly to give us 2 3-carbon molecules. So that's 1 molecule, and then we'll add our additional molecule. Now these molecules that have been formed are glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Now this can also be called GALP, and it's the same molecule as triose phosphate, which you may have come across in photosynthesis. So once this has happened, once we've got our 2 molecules of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, another reaction occurs to this. Okay, it's quite a long reaction. So we have 3-carbon molecule coming out at the end. This is 3-carbon molecule is pyruvate. Now immediately I can see that the phosphate group is no longer there. There's no phosphate group left. So a phosphate must go somewhere. Okay, and in this case we get the production of 1 ATP molecule from 1 ADP molecule. This is just 1 molecule of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate that we're going to deal with. So 1 ADP is converted into ATP. Now the other thing about this reaction is that it is an oxidation. And if there's been an oxidation, there must be a corresponding reduction. And in this reaction, we get a reduction occurring, just using blue for reductions. NAD is reduced to NADH. Now NADH can also be called NADH2 or NADH+. They're all the same thing for the purposes of the exam. Now anytime there's a reduction, energy is released, and anytime energy is released, ATP is produced. So ADP and PI go to make ATP. Now obviously both of these reactions occur twice because we have 2 molecules of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. So if we consider the net use and net gain, the molecules used, if we go back to the beginning of the reaction, we used 2 ATP molecules. Through the second reaction, we could see that we produced 2 molecules of ATP and 1 molecule of NADH. So that's our made area. But obviously we have 2 glyceraldehyde 3-phosphates, which means that we have 2 of these reactions occurring. If we have 2 of these reactions occurring, it means we have double the amount formed. So our net, if we take it all into account, is 2 ATP and 2 NADH.